Welcome to another English podcast provided by LingExam Language Academy. Today we're embarking on a bit of a deep dive into how to justify your opinions in debates, advanced strategies, vocabulary and model dialogues for C1 English learners, and it's brought to you by LingExam.com. Have you ever been in a conversation where, you had a really strong opinion maybe about something at work or, I don't know, even just the best football team, but when someone asked why, you sort of found yourself fumbling for words. It's that moment, isn't it? Where just stating your viewpoint, it isn't quite enough.
Oh, absolutely. It's a remarkably common experience, and you've really put your finger on the core challenge for many C1 English learners. Justifying your opinions, you see, at its heart, it means more than just having a belief. It's about supporting your ideas with, logical reasoning, reliable evidence, and crucially, the right language. When you can do this, it signals a level of knowledge and open-mindedness that truly lets you engage meaningfully, persuade others, and really elevate your communication. For you, our C1 English learner, mastering this isn't just about sounding more proficient. It's about confidently participating and, truly making your voice heard in English-speaking environments.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's about building a solid foundation for your thoughts, isn't it? So our mission for this session then, is to equip you with the blueprints, if you like, for persuasive justification. We're going to unpack the essential vocabulary and phrases, those precision tools. We'll explore how to structure your arguments, kind of like a master builder. Dive into effective strategies for, pretty much every scenario, and show you some real-life examples to help you become an architect of compelling arguments. Okay, so let's start with that fundamental question then. Why do audiences expect us to explain our reasoning? It almost feels like, our brains immediately ask, but why? Why should I believe you? Is that innate or more cultural, perhaps?
It's a bit of both, actually. Culturally, yes, especially in academic or professional settings. Just asserting something isn't really enough. It can come across as, unsupported, maybe even a bit arrogant. Audiences expect you to walk them through your thought process. Take that example from our sources about remote work. You can't just declare, I support remote work, full stop. You need to build your case. You might say something like, the data suggests that remote work boosts productivity, which is why I support it. That single phrase, the data suggests, it instantly shifts your statement from just a preference to a reasoned argument. It shows you've actually thought about it deeply, that your opinion isn't just, plucked out of thin air.
That distinction is incredibly important, yeah. So beyond just making your point, how does having this skill, this ability to justify, how does it really help you stand out? Say, in an academic presentation or a really crucial business meeting, what's the value there?
Oh, it's transformative, honestly. When you can articulate the why behind your views, you immediately signal knowledge, open-mindedness, and respect for different perspectives. It builds credibility. Authority, even, makes you far more likely to persuade others. Think about it. When someone presents a well-justified argument, you don't just hear their opinion, you understand their thinking. And that fosters deeper, more meaningful discussions. Frankly, unsupported opinions are often just dismissed or seen as naive. So mastering justification makes you a confident, capable communicator, and that's absolutely crucial for, both academic and professional success.
That makes perfect sense. Right, now, we know why it matters, but how do we actually do it? I imagine it starts with having the right words at our fingertips, those precision tools for debate you mentioned. What are those foundational terms that really elevate a C1 speaker?
Precisely. And these aren't just vocabulary words, they're strategic concepts, really. They form the backbone of a strong argument. First, you've got evidence. These are your facts, statistics, examples. The power here isn't just proving your point. It's kind of preempting doubt. Shows you've done your homework. It's like intellectual armor.
Right, like showing your workings in maths, that sort of stuff.
Exactly like that. Then there's reasoning. That's the logical thought process connecting your evidence to your conclusion. An assertion is your confident statement. But without reasoning, the logical why, it's just a claim, easily dismissed. And without solid evidence, that reasoning is just theory. Now, every debate will have a counter-argument, won't it? An opposing point. Acknowledging it isn't weakness, it's actually smart. Shows intellectual humility, strategic foresight. It can even disarm your opponent. Shows you see the full picture. The premise is the basis, the starting point of your argument. Your stance is your overall position. And we also need to think about validity, whether an argument is logically sound, the strength of the argument itself.
And building on that, understanding different ways of looking at things, different perspectives.
Yeah.
That must be key too, right? Especially to avoid sounding narrow-minded.
Absolutely. That's where perspective comes in a particular viewpoint, often shaped by experience. And you always need to be aware of bias, which is an unfair preference. Identifying potential biases, even your own, adds real sophistication. Finally, justification itself, the actual reason or explanation you give. Each term is a tool for precision, for power in a debate.
So we've got these powerful single words, but a true C1 speaker also knows how to string them together, don't they? Into powerful phrases that help express, justify, and defend views naturally, sophisticatedly.
Couldn't agree more. Let's run through some key ones. For expressing opinions, you might say, in my view, or from my perspective, perhaps I would argue that. These clearly signpost your position. When you're justifying opinions, you use phrases that introduce your support straight away, like, the data suggests that, or given that, or based on recent research, maybe, one reason for this is.
And what about when you need to challenge someone, perhaps, or defend your own point without, sounding too aggressive?
Ah, yes. For challenging or defending, phrases like, however, it could be argued that, or on the other hand, or while that may be true, are very effective, very useful. When you're citing evidence, you'll use things like, according to source, or statistics indicate that, or a study by name found that. And finally, being able to concede or partially agree really shows open-mindedness. For this, you could say, I acknowledge that, but, or it's true that, however. These allow for that nuanced agreement and disagreement.
And as you get better with these words and phrases, you start noticing how some just fit together naturally, don't they? Like collocations. They make your arguments sound much more fluent. But knowing the tools is one thing. How do we actually build something persuasive with them?
That's exactly where connecting your ideas smoothly comes in. Linking expressions. They're the glue, really, for a coherent argument. Words like, therefore, as a result, moreover, and furthermore, help you build on your points logically. In contrast, and although, signal a shift or a counterpoint. And in summary, helps you wrap things up. They connect ideas smoothly, make your argument easy to follow, and much more persuasive. And as you said, these naturally combine into common phrases like justify your position, support your argument with evidence, and address a counterargument.
Right. It's like knowing the individual bricks, but then learning how to lay them properly to build a sturdy wall.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for putting it into practice? How do we take all these elements, the words, the phrases, the structure, and actually build a strong, persuasive argument that someone, wants to listen to?
Okay, this is where the anatomy of a strong argument comes into play. Think of it as having 4 core pillars. First, a clear position statement. State your viewpoint concisely, right at the start. Then, logical reasoning. Explain the why. Use cause and effect. Make the connection clear. Next, evidence. Absolutely crucial. Support your reasoning with concrete facts, statistics, expert opinions, examples, something solid. And finally, addressing counterarguments. Show you're aware of opposing views and respond thoughtfully. Don't ignore them.
Let's hear how that might sound together. Using that renewable energy example from our source material, imagine you're arguing for it. In my view, renewable energy should replace fossil fuels. Clear position to gain. This is because renewables are both sustainable and better for the environment. Logical reasoning. According to the International Energy Agency, solar and wind could provide the majority of new power capacity within a few years. Evidence be interestness. While some say that renewables are too costly, recent price drops have made them a viable alternative. Addressing counterargument. You can really hear all 4 elements working together there, can't you? Makes a very strong case.
That example illustrates the flow perfectly. Yes. And building on that, we have logical sequencing. This is all about organizing your justification so each point leads naturally, smoothly to the next. Think of this 7-step process almost like choreography for your argument, guiding the listener. First, you state your main opinion. Clear opening move. Then, present your main reason. Show the core path. Then, provide supporting evidence. Give that path solid footing. Then, use those linking expressions we talked about, those smooth transitions. Then, you introduce a counterargument. Show you've considered other views and critically refute it logically. Finally, summarize your stance. Bring it all to a compelling close. Using, say, the universal healthcare example, you'd start with, I strongly support universal healthcare, and then build logically, ending with something like, considering all these factors, I firmly believe universal healthcare should be adopted. It's a journey.
I could definitely see how that structured approach would make any argument much clearer, more impactful. And it sounds like using different types of evidence can also really strengthen your case rather than just relying on one thing.
Oh, absolutely. For a truly high-impact justification, you should aim to combine at least two types of evidence if you can. You've got statistical data, things like numbers, percentages, undeniable proof often. Then there's expert testimony quoting a recognized authority, leverages credibility. You can use anecdotal evidence, personal stories, or observations. These can humanize your argument, make it relatable, and historical examples showing precedents or patterns. Finally, logical deductions reasoning from accepted premises, like if A is true and B is true, then C must follow, or O free. The more varied and well-chosen your support, the more robust your argument becomes.
That's a really powerful toolkit. Okay, let's try and hear these strategies and phrases come alive a bit more in a natural dialogue. We have a model dialogue here between two colleagues, Sam and Priya, discussing remote work. How about I take the part of Sam and you can be Priya?
Excellent idea. Let's do it.
Right then. I've noticed that many people on our team are advocating for a permanent remote work policy. What's your stance on this, Priya?
Well, personally, Sam, I support the idea of continuing remote work options. You see, the data suggests that remote employees are not only more productive, but they also report higher job satisfaction. Given that productivity has actually increased by, 18% since we started working from home, I believe it's a logical step forward.
That's a valid point. However, some colleagues do argue that remote work has led to, communication breakdowns maybe, and feelings of isolation sometimes. How do you address those concerns?
Yes, and while I acknowledge that remote work can lead to some challenges with communication, studies have shown that regular virtual check-ins and, team-building activities can significantly mitigate these issues. Moreover, considering the reduced commuting time and the increased flexibility people get, the benefits seem pretty substantial.
Nevertheless, wouldn't perhaps a hybrid approach address both sides of the argument more effectively?
Absolutely, that's a fair point. In fact, many organizations are adopting hybrid models for exactly that reason. According to a recent survey, I think it was 65% of employees actually prefer a combination of remote and in-office work. Therefore, yes, a hybrid model might well be the most balanced solution here.
Okay, that's quite compelling when you put it like that. In summary, I can see why you support remote work, especially when, backed by strong evidence. Thanks for clarifying your position. So what made Priya's argument so effective there? I mean, she had a clear opinion right from the start, didn't she? Brought in solid evidence, used those great linking expressions like given that, and moreover, and crucially, she addressed Sam's counter-arguments head-on. Showed she'd thought about the whole picture, left little room for doubt, really.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that justification isn't, a one-size-fits-all skill. It really needs to adapt. The way you justify an opinion in a formal academic essay will be quite different from how you do it in a business meeting. For an essay, you'll use formal language, lots of references, probably avoid personal anecdotes. In a meeting, you'll need to be concise, focus on practical outcomes, business relevance.
And how about more everyday situations, like chatting with friends or even, dare I say it, online forums? The tone shifts again there, I imagine.
Precisely. In informal conversations, the language is much more relaxed. Personal examples are often very effective, relatable. They help you connect. For online forums, it's crucial to use credible sources if you can. Maintain a respectful tone, which can be tricky online, and be prepared for quick challenges. It's interactive, fast-paced. Each setting demands a slightly different touch to land your justification effectively.
What about those moments, though, when you're facing a particularly challenging situation? Or maybe you're presenting an opinion that you know might be unpopular? Are there specific phrases that can help navigate that, keep things respectful?
Oh, definitely. These are really useful for tact and confidence. Allows you to stand your ground politely. You might start with something like, "With respect, I must disagree because," signals your differing view politely. To broaden the discussion, maybe, "Let's consider the broader implications," or "if we look at the long-term effects." No, if you need to clarify your own point, "Allow me to clarify my position," is useful. And when acknowledging someone else's point while still holding your ground, try, "I understand your perspective, but the data indicates," or something similar. These phrases really help maintain that respectful, objective tone, even under pressure.
Right. Now it's your turn, our listener, to apply what you've heard. Because at the end of the day, the best way to master this is by actively practicing.
Absolutely. And to help with that, here's a quick mental guide, a step-by-step checklist for justifying opinions in debates. Think of it before you speak. 1. Clearly state your opinion. 2. Provide logical reasoning, the why. 3. Support with solid evidence, facts, stats, examples. 4. Use advanced linking expressions for flow. 5. Address counterarguments respectfully. Don't ignore them. And 6. Summarize your main point. Reinforce your stance. This checklist just helps ensure your argument is well-rounded. Persuasive.
Okay, so let's take a mini debate scenario for you to consider at home, perhaps. A company is considering whether to switch to a 4-day work week. You are asked to present your view in a staff meeting. Now, here's a sample response, drawing on our source material, showing how these elements can come together. In my opinion, the company should implement a 4-day work week. Firstly, studies indicate that shorter work weeks can increase productivity and reduce employee burnout. For example, Microsoft Japan reported a 40% increase in productivity after adopting a 4-day week. Secondly, this policy could help attract and retain top talent, as flexible schedules are increasingly important. Some might argue that reduced hours will decrease output, but research suggests that well-rested employees are actually more efficient. Overall, a 4-day workweek could be highly beneficial for both staff and the organization.
That example really showcases several crucial final tips and strategies for success. Always think before you speak. Just take a moment to plan your argument. Be precise and concise. Use concrete facts. Avoid vague language. Vary your linking phrases keeps it interesting, less repetitive. It's vital to stay calm under pressure. Maintain that respectful, objective tone. Also, acknowledge complexity. Show you've thought about potential downsides. That demonstrates critical thinking. And perhaps most importantly, practice, practice, practice. Use real-world examples, maybe from news articles or academic essays, as models. Build that confidence.
We certainly covered a lot today on how to justify your opinions powerfully. And remember, these aren't just skills for formal debates, are they? They're for life, in your career, your studies, even just social conversations. It's about building that confidence to explain why you believe what you do.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here, I think, is that every opinion, every idea, it just becomes so much more powerful, more influential when you back it up properly with evidence, logic, clarity, which, well, it raises an important question for you, our listener. How will you use these newly honed skills to make your voice heard more effectively in your daily life, in those moments where your why really, truly matters?
If you want to continue your journey to confident English communication and explore more valuable content, do visit our website, LingExam.com. You'll find another fantastic article there on asking for directions, a really practical, everyday situation every English learner should master.
Keep learning, keep challenging yourself, and definitely keep debating.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into justifying your opinions. This podcast was provided by LingExam.com, your path to confident English communication.